Hello, you're watching Sports News Africa, the home of Africa's sporting conversation. Let's take a look at the stories making the headlines across the continent. South African sprinter Simon Magekwe banned for refusing an out-of-competition test. The Africa Zone 6 Golf Championship gets ready to tee off in Kampala, Uganda. Thank you for watching Sports News Africa. I'm Timiskan Tebesai. South Africa's fastest ever sprinter Simon Magekwe has been banned for 2 years for refusing to submit an out-of-competition test, according to Athletics South Africa President Alex Sokhana. Magekwe, the only South African to have run the 100 meters in under 10 seconds, was approached by testers on December the 22nd last year, but he refused to give them a urine sample. That is considered a doping violation according to anti-doping regulations. A tribunal was held on January the 19th, and in early February, Magekwe was suspended for 2 years. Magekwe had the right to appeal, but the time limit for that appeal has now expired. To find out more about the case, we're now joined by South African athletics correspondent Manfred Seidler. Manfred, has the news of Magekwe's ban come as a surprise?
I think for a number of us, it's I suppose mixed feelings is probably the right word. There's always been rumours around the training group that he's with, primarily because 2 athletes have tested positive out of that group before. But, you know, we've always wanted a really good news story. So, you know, the story of Simon Magekwe, if you go back how he started, this was a real rags to riches scenario. So I think more disappointment than surprise. There are some that are surprised if you look at social media, but I think for those of us who've been covering athletics intensively, with the rumours that have been going around, this rumour has been going around for 2 months now, that I suppose it hasn't actually come as a surprise now after the last 2 months.
How big a blow is this to South African athletics, because he was seen as one of the shining lights on the track?
It's massive. It's absolutely huge. We've got a good group of sprinters coming through, and we haven't had that for a long time. And he was the role model. He was leading them. And, of course, the fact that for years and years and years we've been crying for someone to break that magical 10-second barrier, and Simon Magekwe did that. So it's huge for South African athletics, and social media in South Africa, as well as the newspapers and the radio stations, they're all running amok right now. It's a massive blow for South African athletics.
Had his performances raised any suspicions? 9.98 for the 100 meters is a very good time.
Yeah, look, there have been a lot of people who've had question marks around Simon for some time. But, I mean, if you look at his progression as to how he came through the ranks, and he's a 6-time national champion. He's gone through the whole testing procedure and so on. So, you know, most of us would say he's a really classy athlete. He fully had the capability of breaking 10 seconds, and we all felt it was a matter of time. But you had a number of detractors, especially because of the fact that the training group has had, as I said before, 2 positive tests already.
Now he's already 28 years old. Can he return to a top level after 2 years out?
In theory, yes. I mean, he would come back. His ban comes to an end at the end of December of 2016. So he misses this year's World Champs as well as next year's Olympic Games. So he would be 29, 30. It can be done. Physiologically, it can be done. But he'd have to carry on training. And unfortunately, the resources in South Africa wouldn't allow that, really. So I would imagine that this is pretty much the death knell of his career. I would hope not. I hope that he's able to come back. And obviously, he would, during those 2 years, he would have to be tested frequently, just that when he does come back, there can be no repercussions. So, in theory, I believe he can, but I do think, given South Africa's issues, South Africa's resource problems for athletes, it's going to be a very, very tough ask.
Finally, in light of the Kenyan athletics agent suspension, are there any South African athletes under suspension?
To the best of my knowledge, no. I had a phone call this morning from a coach who said that there's a rumor going around that there's another top athlete that will be testing, or the news will come out in this week. We, at this point in time, do not know who that is. South Africa has had its problems with doping, not nearly as bad as a number of other nations, but, you know, the opportunities are rife in South Africa just as anywhere else. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are a number of athletes out there who are actually taking performance-enhancing drugs. But again, without the proof, we can't really do much.
Mr. Siedler, thank you for speaking to Sports News Africa. The Africa Zone 6 Golf Championship gets ready to tee off at the Uganda Golf Club in Kitante on Thursday, with competitors having one last chance to practice and get used to the greens. Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni officially opened the session, which they last hosted in 2004. The hosts hope to wrestle the title from defending champion South Africa and win the tournament for the first time.
Top golfers from across Africa teed off during practice sessions on Wednesday, April 15th, ahead of the 2015 Zone 6 Africa Golf Championships. Players from South Africa, Botswana and Zimbabwe gave the greens a last test in Kampala ahead of the tournament set to be launched by Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni. This year's tournament, which is rumored to be tougher than the 2014 edition, has the defending champs South Africa well prepared for the battle ahead.
We've been practicing together for the last month and a half, so it's been a long traveling is so tough for us now. But I think the team is very well prepared. We're in good form. All the guys are really playing up to their strengths by now, and I think it's going to be a good one.
South Africa have lost just once in 2010 to Kenya. The team is quite confident that the favourable weather and golf course will work to their advantage.
It's much different to our course in South Africa, but it's really nice. I mean, obviously with all the weather and all the rain, I think this course held up pretty good. The greens are in fantastic shape. The rough is punishing, so you have to hit the ball really well. I think it's a really good course to score on. If you're hitting it well, you can score.
Despite being hosted in Uganda, Kenya and the home team will participate in the tournament as guests, as Zone 6 includes teams mostly from Southern Africa. South Africa remain overwhelming favourites.
Of course, all eyes will be on the South African team because they have won this event 19 out of the 20 times that they have played. The only time that they have lost is against in 2010 when they lost to Kenya.
The tournament will run until the 18th of April at the Uganda Golf Club in Kampala.
Welcome back to Sports News Africa. The 2015 Africa Cup of Nations Beach Soccer Championships are underway in the Seychelles, and it hasn't been a good start for the hosts. With news of that and the opening round of fixtures at the tournament, here's our beach soccer roundup.
In Group A, Ivory Coast avoided a shock opening game defeat to Egypt with a 3-1 win in the penalty shootout after the match had ended 3-3 in regulation and extra time. Egypt were on the defensive for most of the game but found ways to score and were 3-2 up until the Ivory Coast scored a late equaliser. Nigeria's Sand Eagles produced the most impressive display of the opening fixtures with a 10-1 win over host the Seychelles. The win gives the tournament favourites 3 points to top Group A. Madagascar came from a 2-0 deficit to beat Ghana's Black Sharks 9-4 in Group B. Madagascar were indebted chiefly to a 4-goal haul from substitute Toki Randrimampandri. And Senegal fans celebrated a convincing 7-3 win over Morocco in their opening Group B encounter. The Lions of Teranga capitalised on some Moroccan mistakes to put some gloss on the scoreline. Senegal topped the group with their next match against Madagascar.
Here's a quick recap of Tuesday's results from Seychelles then. In Group A, Nigeria began their campaign with a 10-1 thrashing of host Seychelles. Ivory Coast got past Egypt on penalties after the game finished 3-3, while the Black Sharks of Ghana were humbled by Madagascar 4-9 in Group B, and Senegal beat Morocco 7-3. We'll bring you more from the Beach Soccer Championships in tomorrow's programme. Time now to take a look at some of the other stories making the headlines across the continent. Former two-times marathon winner Moses Tanui has hit out at Athletics Kenya's decision to ban 2 management companies on suspicion of doping, saying the move would have an adverse effect on elite athletics. Tanui said the federation made a constitutional mistake to suspend Rosa and Associates and Volair Sports without giving them the chance to defend themselves. English Premier League side Stoke City are showing interest in making on-loan Chelsea winger Victor Moses' move permanent in the summer. The Nigeria international is currently sidelined with an injury and has returned to his parent club Chelsea. Stoke manager Mark Hughes insists Moses' injury problems will not put him off from tabling a bid. Liberia has turned to Ghana for help as it seeks a venue for the preliminary rounds of the Under-23 Nations Cup qualifiers. Liberia is one of 3 countries that CAF has ordered us to search for foreign venues for their home games because of the Ebola epidemic which killed thousands last year. Liberia is scheduled to play Ghana in their opening fixture. And marathon runner Tidon Morgan has set another record by becoming the first Nigerian athlete to complete the grueling North Pole Marathon. Morgan ran the extreme marathon in support of the National Black Marathoner Association. This is not the first time Morgan has made history, as she is also the first Nigerian to run the 7 continents. So 4 teams will be in action on Wednesday evening in the Champions League. Portuguese side Porto host Bayern Munich at the Estadio de Dragao, while Paris Saint-Germain welcome Spanish giants Barcelona to the Parc des Princes. Both games kick off at 19:45 GMT. Let's look back then at Tuesday's results. Atletico and Real will fight it out for a place in the semi-finals next week after the two couldn't be separated in a feisty 0-0 first-leg draw at the Vicente Calderón. Gareth Bale missing the beat chance of the match. Juventus take that 1-0 lead into the second leg. And that's the end of Sports News Africa for today. Join us again tomorrow when we'll bring you all the latest from Africa and around the world. Bye for now.